What's up, Soul Family? Coming at you with another collective reading. This one's gonna be on. We have Vine with Seek Out Information That Will Help You. That being said, let's jump right in. If you're looking for a one-on-one reading, you can do so by directly messaging me or by doing so at the link in my bio. The first reading is 35 for up to 20 minutes, and you can ask whatever questions you want. Or I can simply see what comes out, and we can go from there. With that being said, let's jump right in. So we have Bear, which is danger, especially in money matters. We have Funnel with period of frustration, lessons learned. And then we have Claw with be careful, do not take risks. So I think this is definitely just a warning to be careful. And when warnings come up, they're not always like something bad. It's usually something that we can prevent something from coming up, so that way we don't have to deal with the consequences of something negative versus us actually having done something wrong inherently. I wouldn't say wrong, but doing something that would then cause something. It's usually a chance to prevent something from happening. So basically, be careful with your money. Don't spend unnecessarily, and don't just invest randomly or just dump money into something. Especially if you just have like a random tinge and you're kind of considering it. Don't do it. This is just fine not to do it. And I'm pretty sure there'll be readings where I might tell you to do it. Who knows? Who knows? See the fortune cookies or fortune cards now, but anyway. And then we have, I'm sorry, I think this is Birch. I think it's really hard to see the reflection, sorry. Kind of go closer to the camera. You can see a little bit better. I guess I'll just read directly from the book and make things easy. The birch tree is beloved by many for its pure but determined energy. It is one of the first trees to grow leaves in spring, and the first to grow back when an area of woodland is cleared. This tenacity gives strength to anyone seeking to overcome difficulties. The birch is also featured in the Celtic Ogham tree calendar. Sorry if I butchered that. The month it represents is seen as a time for regeneration and rebirth. This card is encouraging you to focus on all of these things. A new chapter is beginning for you, potentially one that has arisen from a challenging situation. Do not let past difficulties make you jaded. Enter this new phase with certainty and confidence. So let's jump right into the tarot reading. I feel like we started off with a quick warning of not to do anything too crazy, a little bit of wisdom, and now let's get into the depth of what's going on. Then we have the Queen of Wands. Let me pull one more. The Queen of Wands and the Empress. Just dropped my entire deck, or almost did. So when we have the Queen of Wands and the Empress cards, these make me feel like somebody who is just radiating in their own energy. It's like somebody who is just being themselves and allowing everything to just flow to them as a result of that. I think the more I go down this journey, the more I realize that all you really have to be is yourself from this individual perspective. And everything that you love, everything that you like, if you consider to kind of lean into that, then it opens pathways into other things. Like all of my decks, most of my decks are cartoon or anime inspired, or they're themed decks from things that I grew up with. And then even the projects that I'm doing right now, they're all with different characters that I grew up with and loved. And I was even thinking about it earlier today. The songs I'm even listening to, like I used to watch Little Mermaid like when I was 6 years old, like on repeat, and I'm still listening to the same songs like 30 years later. So sometimes the things that we love carry with us, and I think us leaning into that allows us to really be able to birth other things. Like everything within fiction, even new characters, even new realms, even everything is inspired by something else. So a lot of times when we're allowing ourselves to step into this energy of being inspired, and I think that's how we draw inspiration. I think that's how we become ourselves, like by absorbing all of these different archetypes, energies, these things that we love. They're all little parts of us that then create this very authentic and individual being that we then get represented as. So I think this is a call to really lean in on who you are, the things that you love, the things that you enjoy, the things that really make you feel you. And that could even just be like TV shows. It doesn't have to be like, cartoons or anything like that. It could even just be shows. It can be even like if you're like doing makeup, it could be literally anything that you do that you enjoy. Anything that, because when I think of the Queen of Wands, I think of somebody who, because they are who they are, they then inspire other people to be, similar or to adopt qualities or characteristics from them. And I think that's a really positive and powerful trait to have. So through whatever situation you're going through, it's like just trust that you have the ability to navigate through whatever it is by simply leaning in on your own personal, individual, specific strengths that you've grown with. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily seem like much, but you'd be so surprised how many paths can open up just by you doing what you need to do and simply moving forward versus allowing, I guess, circumstances to maybe make you feel as if you're helpless by them. If you're an artist, put your art out there. If you and even if you it pushes you to improve, even if you get a lot of critique and it makes you improve, like even that in and of itself is still something that helps you along your path. And then we have the Two of Swords. So a lot of times we really feel, and I was telling this to somebody last night, we really tend to feel sometimes as if the choices we have aren't necessarily we're met with a lot of uncertainty. We're met with a lot of having to navigate situations in the dark and not necessarily having what would be a clear answer or what we would feel as if is a decisive way to move forward, especially with the complexity of the situations that we experience within the physical realm. Many times, one of the questions I get asked is, did I make the right choice? Did I make the right decision? And I think the best thing I can say to that is you did what you could with the information that you had, and sometimes it doesn't always end up the way that we want it to. But a lot of times, many times, most times, if you trust your intuition and the more you lean in on trusting your own path and your own connection to yourself, which is then fed back to you through your intuition, I think it allows you to navigate through these times of uncertainty that much more. The more you tend to trust these nudges, these feelings, the universe, your higher mind, whatever it is that you're connected to push you to where you want to be, the easier these things tend to happen. And I think that's sometimes one of the biggest things that people have to learn. And I'm kind of looking back at the tea leaf cards, and I think that's one of the things that popped up is periods of frustration, lessons to be learned. I think that's one of the biggest things that we do learn is having to trust our intuition, having to learn how to be ourselves in spite of what other people might like or dislike. We're not here to necessarily please people, and I think those are very powerful things to understand and embody, especially when you're trying to accomplish something or be somebody. You can't be everybody's cup of tea when not everybody even likes tea to begin with. And some people just hate them damn self. Some people just hate everything that they see, everything that they got going on. So therefore, by association, they hate your ass. So you just got to be mindful not to allow other people to drag you into their crap. And then we have the King of Cups. So a lot of times we have to really do what we can to not allow what we're experiencing to crush us. And I don't say that lightly. And I also think it's also the energy of, especially at the Two of Swords, we have to do what we can to allow our intuition to guide us. So we have to continue moving forward. We have to allow, what we know or what we feel inside to be able to be what paves the next step, what kind of paves the path ahead. And it's not always easy, but I think that is partially what the King of Cups energy is. It's like cups are all about the bonds, the connections that we have. It's like feeling, sensing things. It's like the energy that is unseen. So I think a lot of leaning into this human experience, especially when we're trying to navigate uncertainty, is really trusting what we are sensing and how we are feeling, like how we need to navigate through something. Like sometimes we get advice from people, many times we can get advice from somebody, but we just feel as if the way we need to deal with something could be different. And that's perfectly valid and perfectly fine. A lot of times that's exactly what it's meant to be. We're meant to maybe gain inklings of advice from another person, but then figure out how we need to then move forward from our own perspective with the knowledge and the experiences that we have. I'll pull one more and then use the bottom of the deck. Then we have the Ace of Pentacles and the Emperor. So maybe there's a lot of energy of having to hunker down, be disciplined for whatever period you're in. I remember some of the prior cards were pointing towards difficulties and having to go through financial strains and having a period of having to learn things. And sometimes it's really just having to be disciplined and strict with the way that we have our resources and then allowing what we need to do to be resolved that way. Sometimes it's literally just a matter of not going out a little bit more, allowing yourself to cut back just a little bit so you can get by the next period and not put yourself into a hole that would then stress you out versus trying to get yourself out of a hole and being like, okay, well, I'll just figure it out. So sometimes there's the energy of being disciplined that will then allow you to have other opportunities. And you don't want to just stifle the flow of energy and not spend or not experience things. I'm not necessarily saying that, but sometimes we can just reel it back a little bit and not necessarily go all out. But either way, peace and blessings, and I hope you guys have a great day.